Okay, so I came across this article moments ago via Yahoo News where the Poles are honoring Reagan and John Paul with a new statue, and there's the statue right there. Not exactly high definition, but I think you can make it out. Um, what's so funny about this article is that once again it helps put another nail to that coffin, to that meme of the media being supposedly liberal, as once again this article is absolutely swooning about Reagan and his supposed belief in freedom and bringing freedom to the Polish people, John Paul as well. Of course, what this writer could have done, it would have taken just a moment's research or just knowledge, just cursory knowledge of 1980s history. This is the Reagan, of course, who supported the Iranians, the Ayatollahs in Iran, through the Iran-Contra Arms for Hostages. He armed the Ayatollahs. He gave arms to the Contras, which were a guerrilla army destabilizing an elected government in Nicaragua, and they engage in horrendous terrorism, human rights violations, etc. This is, of course, the Reagan who armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, the remnants of what, Islamic holy warriors, the remnants of which made up the Taliban and later on, of course, Al-Qaeda, with good old Osama bin Laden himself being there in the 1980s. Was that contributing to freedom? Or how about his support, Reagan's support for the Wahhabist monarchy in Saudi Arabia, perhaps the most radical Islamic fundamentalist government in the world? His support of Saddam Hussein, many people don't point that out. He armed Saddam Hussein. When the Senate wanted to condemn Saddam Hussein in 1987 for his gassing of the Kurds, Claiborne Pell wanted to pass a sense of the Senate resolution. It was Reagan, in connivance with the Republican leadership in the Senate, that blocked that in support of his buddy Saddam Hussein. He supported the apartheid regime in South Africa through something which foreign policy wonks refer to as constructive engagement. How was that contributing to freedom? And on and on. Support of undemocratic dictatorial governments spanning the globe from South Korea through Central Africa, Zaire, Central America, and Latin America in general. No, if you put Reagan's foreign policy record in context, of course he wasn't motivated by freedom and for the desire for freedom in Poland. It's just that Poland, they were simply pawns in a great power struggle in trying to undermine a political opponent in the Soviet Union. But it had nothing to do with freedom. Governments don't care about freedom. What they care about is power. And they want to aggrandize their own power and the power of powerful constituencies within their countries. And so in the case of American foreign policy, the reason why we opposed the Soviet Union so much wasn't an issue of freedom, because we supported dictators fine, as I just pointed out. The point is that the Soviet Union represented an economic model that excluded corporations, that excluded America's economic penetration through its corporate-dominated system. And of course, the Soviet Union lent money and aid to governments that also adopted economic systems that were at variance with the open economic model, which is what the American system always demands on other countries. So that's what this is all about. The Polish people were merely pawns. They should not worship, they should not idol worship. That's the irony here. So many Christians idol worship Reagan as if he were some sort of god, and the Republican Party as well, which is, I think, contrary to their religious teaching. But anyways, that's for Christians to decide. John Paul is also a funny guy to worship, since he presided over one of the greatest cover-ups, institutional cover-ups of child molestation. And of course the Catholic Church has a horrible record with supporting fascism, and as I recall, weren't the Polish people invaded and despoiled by a fascist Nazi invasion about 60 years ago? Well, yeah, that's the legacy of the Catholic Church as well. So this is just an all-around fail by the Polish people, in my opinion. And the irony when you read this article is that, using the logic of this article, we should all be erecting statues to Joseph Stalin in every American city. Why? Because Joseph Stalin sacrificed 20 to 30 million people in order to defeat the Nazis. Imagine how many American lives were saved by diverting so many of the Nazi army divisions away from the Western Front, where we invaded via D-Day, right? Over to the Eastern Front, imagine how many more Americans would have died during World War II. Stalin did more to help Americans and American lives directly through the sacrifice of tens of millions of Russians than Reagan, who basically said, tear down this wall when it came to the Soviet Union. I mean, what did America sacrifice in order to help Polish freedom, other than pretty words? Now, don't misconstrue me. I don't want a statue to anyone. I don't believe in hero worshiping. I don't believe in idol worshiping. If anything, there should be a statue to the Polish people. They were the ones who were on the ground, who were sacrificing, and who were giving up their lives in order to fight a dictatorship and to overthrow an empire. They're the ones who should have a statue erected, not leaders who were living thousands of miles away and who were using pretty words and hypocritical words at that, like Reagan, who didn't believe in freedom, as his foreign policy record clearly demonstrates.